Senator John Thune of South Dakota is the Senate Republican Conference chairman, the third-ranking GOP senator right now. Senator Thune, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks. Nice to be with you, Wolf.
Do you accept the assessment of the U.S. intelligence community that it was Russia and the highest levels of the Russian government, Putin, were directly responsible?
Well, I think what they said today made it clear that's what they believe. And they're going to file an official public report on Monday. There are a couple of other hearings today on Capitol Hill on the Senate side, Intelligence Committee, Foreign Relations Committee, where I expect we'll get a better and more full understanding of all this. But yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that Russia was involved.
So you accept that because the president-elect, at least so far, he's going to be briefed tomorrow on this new report in New York by Clapper and the other leaders of the intelligence community. So far, he hasn't accepted. He said it could be China, could be some guy on his bed.
Well, and I think he'll get the briefing tomorrow from the intelligence community, and I hope that after he has that, he'll be able to articulate probably in a more clear way his view about what actually happened and what the underlying motivations were, which I think a lot of that hopefully will come out in the report on Monday. A lot of it will probably come out in a more classified setting. There are limitations of what they could say, I think, in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee this morning. The question about what impact it had and whether or not they were trying to swing the election one way or the other, I think that's another question.
That's another question, right? What the motivation was. And we heard Clapper say there were several motivations. He didn't want to spell them out. Presumably, it's classified, although he did say that in the report that will be made public, they'll go into more detail. He didn't want to do that today.
Right.
Why do you think Trump has been so reluctant all these weeks to accept what the intelligence community has concluded?
Well, hopefully you'll get a better, I assume after he hears from the intelligence community tomorrow, he'll get a chance to talk to the public and express his views. So that's probably a question for him to answer. I do think that, when he ran for office, he, of course, there's a lot of skepticism and doubt about government, Washington generally, and, previous instances where he's drawn into question some of the findings of the intelligence community. So those probably bear on his opinions. But I think after he gets a full report tomorrow, hopefully he'll be able to come out and speak with clarity about his views on this subject.
And he's going to get the most sensitive information, all the classified information involving sources and methods, information that they're not going to make public Monday, but he'll be privy, like the President Obama, is to the most sensitive information. Lindsey Graham, right, your Republican colleague on the Armed Services Committee, he said this. I want to play this clip of what he said based on everything he knows so far.
If it were up to me, we'd all live in peace. But Putin's up to no good, and he better be stopped. And Mr. President-elect, when you listen to these people, you can be skeptical, but understand they're the best among us, and they're trying to protect us.
You with Senator Graham?
Sure. I mean, the people in the intelligence community, they're like all of us, Wolf. They're fallible, they're human, they're not going to get it right 100% of the time. But these are hardworking people who care deeply about the country and are committed patriots. And I think that we have to listen, and I hope that the new administration will build a relationship with them, because they're going to have a relationship going forward.
The other big issue right now, Obamacare, the future of Obamacare. President-elect Trump repeatedly said on day one he wants to repeal and replace. Repealing is easy. Replacing, not so easy. That could take a long time. Some say 2 years, 3 years, even 4 years. How long, realistically, will it take to replace Obamacare?
I think if you go about it in a step-by-step way, you can start that process much earlier. I think that the question of whether it's 2 years or 3 years for something to be fully implemented is to give transition, because you're talking about moving away from something, a 2,700-page bill with 20,000 some pages of regulations. It's going to take a while to create a transition, a phase out or phase in, if you will. But in the end, we hope to come up with an alternative that is better, that provides more affordability and access and greater choices and options and more competition for people.
The criticism the Republicans, including Trump, have received is you guys have railed against the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, for 6 or 7 years. Finally, there's going to be a Republican president, a Republican majority in the House, Republican majority in the Senate. Why aren't you ready on day one with legislation to not only repeal but come up with a plan that will replace it?
We have, because we've got literally a menu of options. We have members in both the House and the Senate who've introduced both comprehensive bills, more targeted bills. I think you will see in a systematic way, us in a step-by-step way, start early on to introduce legislation, to start implementing our ideas. But I think it's going to take a period of time. I don't think you can expect this to happen overnight. And some of these ideas that have been worked on for several years, we have to sort of unify behind. There's a Rubio bill, there's a Bill Cassidy's got a bill, Richard Burr and Orrin Hatch have a bill. There are a lot of bills out there, good ideas, and we've got to figure out what's the best path forward.
On day one, what's going to happen?
Well, I think on day one, we've got a budget resolution on the floor right now, an Obama repeal resolution, which will pass next week. And then we will begin the process of going about how we replace that in over a period of time. Look for something that comes up with a much better plan for people in this country that lowers premiums. And the thing that's clear is that this isn't working. It's a broken system. It's got to be fixed. And everybody agrees upon that. The question is, how do you go about doing that? We think it makes more sense to have a market-based approach that gives people more choices and creates more competition.
The Republicans agree. The Democrats.
Yeah, well,
Democrats like it. They say it can be improved, but they don't say it needs to be replaced. Senator Thune, thanks for coming in.
Thanks to be with you.
Appreciate it very much.